Welcome back to Doing Life Radio. I'm Sam.
And I'm Joyce. We're a married couple living in South Jersey, talking about all things life with a special focus on food, fitness, and faith.
And today we're talking about fitness.
Today we're talking about running, to be more specific.
Running fitness, and everyone hates running.
Correct. Everyone hates running. No, we do have a guest on today. We have a male guest on, which is very unusual.
Yes.
And he is a runner.
Yep.
And he just has a really cool story.
He's got a great story about how running helped him with his fitness trail, his active lifestyle, the different tasks and things he's been able to check off his list. So you're in for a treat. There's lots of information in here about running. So whether you like it or not, you can find out it can be done. So we ask you to like, share. Of course, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Play, we're on Podomatic, we're on Spotify. Just about anywhere you get your podcast, you get this. And the more you like and the more you share, the more friends get to join the conversation.
That's right.
So here we are going on. Let's run through this program. I am totally prepared to go out right after this podcast.
I see that.
Yeah, I
hope it's dark or you're going to look even more ridiculous.
No, you got to wear this thing anyways. If you're watching on YouTube, I can reach around behind and click a couple buttons and I light up.
Yeah, he's got these suspenders on that
yeah, you have to describe
reflect.
It for the podcast.
And where'd you get the idea?
It's a reflector and it's got some dots here. And
where did you get it?
Own
Probably
it.
Amazon.
No. I own it because I went running one time with my good friend Tuck.
Oh, it's from you.
Yeah.
And I said, I need to get me one of those. And sure enough,
instantly.
less than a week later, he sent me a link and I got it.
Amazon.
So, speaking of which, back to Amazon, we had a little pre-podcast talk. So speaking of Tuck, we have a man in the room.
Well, we usually have a man in the room.
Yeah, little one.
But this is our very first
We had a little guy.
male guest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Our
We
second
had Aaron.
male guest, our first
That's
man
right.
guest.
He was adorable.
Look at you. You know the podcast better than
He
me.
does know it. That's the other thing, too. Tuck is our biggest commenter and
Yes,
reporter.
we
so he's
appreciate
good.
it because it keeps us,
Yeah.
the more people comment and like, the more people see it. So we do appreciate you doing your part.
And the more encouragement.
And
Yeah.
I shoot Sam the direct text when they're constructive criticism. Push the button.
It's like, I couldn't hear that person. You got to hit play a little bit better and wear a different hat next time. I hear all that kind of stuff.
Wear
So
a hat.
I'm actually all decked out to run. I have a shirt that says run on it. I got my glow in the dark suspenders or whatever you want to call it. I got my running hat on, which I learned pretty quickly to get a running hat because a regular hat just won't cut it. Even headbands aren't doing it.
Or sweat, is
Yep.
that why?
It grabs the sweat so much better. It
Airflow.
ventilates. There's just something different to a running hat. But the reason why we have Tuck on is because Tuck's got a great running story. He used running as a weight loss technique, correct?
Yes.
And he's one of the most active gray-haired individuals I know.
Silver. I
Silver-haired
prefer silver, yeah.
individuals I know. So we want to have that story because, like most people, Joyce and I do not really enjoy running. I think when you tell someone you're a runner, what's the first thing most people say?
I wouldn't say that I enjoy it.
Okay, we understand. We understand.
It's the you do it as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in the long term you enjoy it, but I wouldn't say that when you're out there doing a PR and you're just straining to finish. I wouldn't say it's enjoyment. Finishing a run
Finishing
is
is
I
awesome.
enjoy saying I went for a run today.
There you go.
But I don't enjoy saying I still have to do my run today. That's miserable.
I mean, if I can run slow, if I'm in a trail, I'll back it off and I'll enjoy that run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're not going for time and just going
Exactly.
out into... Now,
Exactly.
you run all over the place. You have all kinds of trails and now you snap a lot of pictures. Do you stop and take pictures in the process, or you don't do it while you're running?
If it's
like some
no, I have done that, and then you get the blurry
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. But I wind up, if I find something that's really catches my eye for whatever reason, I'll stop because you got to enjoy life, and you're passing life, so capture it if you can.
I think
And a selfie now and then.
that's a great. Yeah, you gotta let people know you ran, right?
Well, it's a Facebook thing. If a workout doesn't get posted, it didn't happen.
Did it even
That's
happen?
exactly
No,
Yeah.
I'd say 90% of my workouts never see the light of Facebook or
Right.
Instagram.
Well,
At least 90.
well, we got to lower that percentage. You got to get more online. So let's talk about. I want to talk about your kind of journey, because you were talking and just mentioned. I asked the question. I said, "Look, I know that there's a pre-tuck to the tuck that we
yep.
know now."
Yeah.
And so I want to kind of go through that story, because the whole idea for us is we want to try to encourage people on different health paths and walks and stuff like that. So we want to hear your journey from unhealthy tuck to a more healthier.
Unhealthy tuck. I've always been active, all through school. I played ball, hockey, roller hockey, indoor soccer, that kind of thing through my 20s and 30s. But as I got into my 40s and 50s, the extracurriculars got less and less, and I wasn't doing, the home workouts and that kind of thing. So, and I was starting to put on those love handles and things like that. I fought fire for 30 years, actively in Millville, and we are a very active company, even though we're part volunteer, part career. Not just the fighting the fires, but also the training that goes. So there's a lot of heffing hoses and doing stuff like that, even for the off training.
Right.
So I've stayed active, but little by little, life had its toll on me, and I wound up, and on a 5'10"-ish frame, I hit 200 pounds. And to me, that was my head almost exploded, and I was in my early 50s. And I'm saying I got to do something. And I had been doing home workouts, some gym stuff down in the basement, that kind of thing. And so I tried to do running. And at the time when I started running, this was 6 years ago, I couldn't run a block without stopping.
I feel you.
Yeah, you got that, huh?
I got you.
Yeah, I couldn't run a block. And almost simultaneously, my 30-year-old something son encouraged me.
Those were air quotes if you're listening.
Now, we fought fire. We fought fire for 4 years together. And he's very, very physically fit. That kind. He's an ultra marathoner. And
now, let's just pause on that
Pause.
With him, because he's not right in the head, the stuff he does. He is crazy into that running. Now, ultra marathon. Describe that for anyone who
an
doesn't
ultra
know
marathon
ultra.
is any distance further than a marathon, which is 26.2 miles.
That's insane.
But he's going like,
and they call the gateway drug
Okay.
to when you got to a marathon, and the gateway drug is the 50K, which is a 31 miler.
Oh my
No.
goodness!
And so that's once you've done that, you want to do more. And then there's 50 milers, there's 100Ks, which is 62 miles, and there's 100 miles, and there's beyond that too. But most of them are 50 or 100 in that area.
Amazing.
And he's run I want to say maybe 8 or 10 50 milers, and probably 600. He also did one of the 100 miles that he did is one of the hardest is Hard Rock out in Colorado a couple of years ago, and he's been.
Wasn't there one like it was an overnight or something like that?
Well, all the 100 milers are.
They just
The
go in- I
shortest
guess they
one I
gotta
think
go
was
into
like
the night.
20. Imagine running for 26 hours.
No,
His longest time was 36 or 37 hours. I think that was in Colorado.
is
And he might take, he takes a
insane.
break at the aid station and that kind of, because I've done crewing for him. My wife, we've all jumped in and helped him. We've all flew out to
And you
Colorado.
don't sleep, right? Or do you sleep?
Me or the runner?
No, the runner.
No.
That's insane.
I think he may have took a nap one time.
Oh my
20
gosh.
minutes.
You're talking like when they stop at these rest stops, how long do they stop? Like
as short as they can.
Just to
Yeah.
As
eat.
short in 2 or
It's a
3
time.
minutes.
It's like
hydrate.
like
that
a
kind of
NASCAR
change.
pit stop. You're in, you're out.
Exactly. If you can do it in 2 or 3 minutes, you're out.
Oh
Yeah,
my,
they
that
pulled
is-
him off the trail in Hard Rock because he was hypothermic at 11, 12,000 feet in the middle of the
my
night. And they
gosh.
wrapped him up and they made
Yeah.
him sit there for like 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that, before they let him go out.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was.
That's okay. So that's
At least
ultra
they're
marathon.
monitoring
Yeah,
them,
and-
though, that they
I would imagine they
they
would probably
realized
He's-
that and made him stop.
health checks along the
Yeah,
way. like doing
in
those things.
marathons
Yeah.
like that, ultramarathon, they do health checks
Yeah.
along that, and that's what they said. No, you're hypothermic, you got to stay here. You said he's
It's
he's
another
out
mental
there.
level to be able to accomplish that. Yeah.
And he's physically adapted to it over the last 12 years. He's won several races, and generally when you go to a race, or somebody says, "Hey, did you win the race?" It's like, generally runners do
Right,
not
right,
win
yeah, no,
races.
no.
Okay,
No,
and
no.
he's won 5 or 6 races from 10K up to a 50-miler.
Wow. Yeah,
And
so,
my wife and I and his wife were there. His kids were there.
so he's
and
not
when he
just
won
getting to
the-
participate.
That's
The
pretty cool.
the 50-miler, and that
Yeah.
was very, very
Oh,
special.
that's neat to
that's
be there
cool.
for that.
Yeah,
That's
it was very cool.
That is unreal. But
Down-
I can't imagine what goes on. Like, I mean, think it. Can you,
Dedication and
Mentally
it's,
for-
it's
Yeah.
super mental.
gotta- that-
Absolutely.
that's what I'm saying, like-
and it's not.
I mean,
ultra
you-
marathoning seems to be. It's not good enough to just run them. They also run them in the woods. They run them in because it's
Right.
it's
In
the
rarely a street.
cold,
It's
right.
rarely a street
well,
ultra.
you'd have to get a freeway. You
the-
literally have to say, all right, you're going to run from here to Pittsburgh, go, and then get on 76 or
the
something
one,
like that.
the Hard Rock in Colorado covered 100 miles. It also
That's
was
the
an
other-
average
Elevation,
elevation
right.
of 9,000 feet. It went down to 7, up to 14,000 twice.
Oh my gosh.
Total elevation changed because they only count the up, because when you go around you get 0, right?
Right.
So they only count the up. I think it was like 33,000 feet of elevation change.
Wow.
Man.
So it's not good enough. You said they're a different breed. We'll call
Yeah,
it.
Yes.
Different breed.
That's exactly it. And I have the utmost respect for it because a lot of, especially like just in fitness in general, mental, I think is the biggest obstacle that most people have to face. Sooner or later, you're going to come to a mental crossroads, and so even those ultras and stuff like that. Even now, like I'm trying to extend my running a little bit farther.
Yes, little by little.
Yeah, and it's that mental, like the mindset to try to push a little bit further. Or like for me, I'm very competitive.
That's where you need it.
It was hard for me to enter something without a chance of winning. So when I was younger, I used
Okay,
to do
so
a lot
basketball
of
and stuff like that.
tournaments, softball tournaments, stuff like that. I've always been at the level where if I'm not going to win, I'm going to be there in the end.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Like you said earlier, runners don't enter these races or runs
You've got
to win.
200, 400. I ran a 10K 2 weeks ago in Philadelphia. There was 11,000 runners. There's
my
only one
gosh.
runner.
Yeah.
There's only one winner.
Only one.
And they do give it, first in
Everyone
this
gets a-
this age
right,
bracket,
yeah.
that
Different
bracket,
categories.
different. But it's not. There's
Yeah.
one winner.
So from when I first started these things, like that was my first mental hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's going to be people out here that are better than me, and like not just kind of better, but like really better. I happen to feel like my age category now, like in the 40, like that 30 to 50, that 20-year gap, something like, is really highly competitive. You're just talking about a lot of people that
30 years old and 40 years old is
have
very
been
competitive.
running their whole lives, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just the new guy on the block. I'm there for the T-shirt and the medal. That's kind of my thing, and the experience. It is lots of fun.
Get that adrenaline going because you have all those people.
Yeah, it's so different. Yeah,
The competitiveness helps you push yourself a little
so
further.
the
a
last
little further.
race, and I'm not very good at timing myself, like trying to figure out what my physical pace is until my phone tells me what my pace is. But at the races or the runs, I guess run's the more appropriate word, I just try to pass the next person in front of me. That's my goal. All right, there's someone in
And
front of me.
that's what
So I'll go.
drives-
So I'll just leapfrog.
That's why you wind up getting those PRs.
Yeah, and that's what helped me.
Using
I
those
got it.
pylons.
That's exactly it. Just keep moving around. All right, so we cut you off because we want
right.
to talk about your
Yeah.
son.
So your
who's
son was
running and-
encouraging you.
Yeah, almost the same amount of time, and he very bluntly put it, "Dad, you need to do more," because he could see the belly was getting
Right.
larger, and I was doing less, and that kind of thing. And it just happened to be I had run a couple of short runs, and he suggested I try C2 5K, which is C to
Couch.
5K from
Oh,
the
right.
couch
Yeah,
to
yeah.
a 5K
Yep.
in
It's an
9
app on your phone.
in 9 weeks. Well, it's a program more than an app.
Okay.
It's an app now. I know that's how
I'm
we're
saying, but
familiar
it's an
with
app.
it,
But
right.
it's a program. It sets you up to do 3 runs a week
Mm-hmm.
for 9 weeks. And it starts out with they all start out and end with a 5-minute walk.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you run for 60 seconds, and then you walk for 90 seconds. And they keep alternating that. And then you do that for a week, and then the next week you might run 90 seconds with the 60s.
Right.
So each week gets closer and closer. I think at the end of the 9th week, I ran 25 minutes straight,
Yeah.
which was unheard of when 9 weeks before I couldn't run a block.
Right, couldn't get
Right?
down.
It was unbelievable. And I ran the turkey trot down at one of the shore points. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a turkey trot. and wanted it a 2-mile walk. She thought it was a 1-mile walk. That's my wife. She thought it was going to be a 1, and we wound up being 2. She
Very long
yeah,
mile.
and I did. That was the first 5K, and that was kind of like my gateway
That was your
into
breakout,
running.
right? You're like,
More important than that, it helped me set up a discipline, a program, habit.
yes.
And during that 9 weeks, as I started in March, there was a birthday up in Rochester, New York, and there was back and forth to Pennsylvania where our grandkids, and we have grandkids in New York. So I had to figure out in our life
How are you going to squeeze that
how
in?
I'm going to squeeze those and where I'm going to run. And that all becomes part of the deal. And so I just I kept that habit going, and then little by little over the years, I've increased. I mean, it took me until the following April to run a 10K, which is 6.2 miles. So I went a year
so you-
and a month
Progressed pretty quickly.
That
I
is
mean,
pretty
from nothing to a year later
doing a 10K.
doing 10. That's nuts. Like that's a pretty.
Is it
fast
really?
progression.
I mean, I thought it was kind of slow because I was just kind of inching
You look
up.
at that guy who's been running for a long time, and I just broke the 5-mile consecutive mark the other day, like a week ago. I just can't.
Oh, so you know what it means to jump to that next mile.
Right, but it's so like, yeah, I feel like I've been doing this a year and a half now or something like that on that, and I'm trying to progress up there. I mean, so at that rate, you're cruising along. Plus, you're in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
I was
you're-
mid 50s.
there's other obstacles that you're fighting that I'm not yet fighting.
Yeah,
On that road.
you're a young man.
Yeah.
Keep saying that. I like that. So you got to what? Did you do anything with your diet? Like it obviously has helped you.
I
in the
started.
weight
I
loss, stuff like that.
definitely started doing push-aways
Okay.
from the dining room table. Just smaller portions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still can. I feel I can still eat whatever I want, but not as much as I want.
Gotcha.
And that's a big part of it. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
I really think men are kind of like dogs. Cats, you put food down, and they'll eat what they need.
Right.
Dogs, you put whatever you put down,
They're
They'll-
going to eat
they'll
it
eat
whether
all
they're
of it.
hungry or
and
not.
then men are.
I think that is a great thing because I see some food on my plate. There's something in me that says I gotta clean that
Just
plate.
finish it.
Yeah,
I think
so-
it's a people thing.
So-
We see food and we just naturally want to eat.
All right, so I've had to learn to do the smaller, divide the plate and
Right.
do that. And Wanda's always making sure that we got, 3 square meals. She's making sure we got the right things, and we're getting less carbs in our lives, and less sugars. And
Good.
she's hardcore about less sugars.
Yeah, Wanda's going to teach me how to make bone broth. She doesn't know that yet. Rick and I have discussed it, but I'm going
This
to
might
learn
be
to
the
make
big
bone
reveal.
broth.
She's like, I'm what?
She's also been
what?
she's also been making her own sauce because she reading the jars on like spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
They're packed
Ingredient
with
2,
sugar.
sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're terrible.
so she's
Rayo's
been-
is the only sauce I'll ever buy.
It's amazing what sneaks up on you in the food and stuff like that. So just recently you have run a half marathon and your goal was a full marathon.
Right.
And that blasted plantar fasciitis is
Twice.
coming.
Yeah.
One on each
It's
foot, right?
it's called this. They call it the runner's snake bite.
It's so
And I had it
nasty.
in the left foot in 2018, which is after the year after I did my one and only marathon.
Well, let's back up then, because maybe
Sure.
I jumped the gun. I forgot about that because I'm wrestling with this right now. I don't know if I want a marathon on my bucket list or not. What put that on your list? Like I know your son is like an ultra crazy
And
runner,
that's his. That's his
Okay, so
thing.
that
One
was
thing
a-
I learned really early on in running is not to compare to the person
Yeah.
next to you, unless you got somebody close there
That's
in a
in your
race.
ballpark, right,
yeah,
right.
you can catch up to them. That's fine. I mean, generally when you go out running, I love running with like when you
Yeah,
and
we had
I.
a blast. It was
the
fun.
first thing if it is your pace or mine.
Right.
I've gone running with my daughter-in-law, and she runs about a minute slower than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn, she's an avid runner, and it was run a couple times, but it's my pace or it's generally
Right.
the slower pace
Right.
because they're both
Yeah,
you're going to get
that
good-
would make
well,
a lot of sense. or else-
yeah, because
or
everyone else
eventually
is going to die.
eventually you're running
I
by
could
yourself.
never run his pace.
so
We
so
have
don't
to
be
run
afraid
separately.
don't be afraid to pair up.
Yeah.
Like when you guys go to work out, you're doing your thing. You're not competing. You're not trying to pick
No.
up a 50-pound
We're
barbell.
usually not even together. Like we're in the gym together, but we're not together. We're
But the
doing
fact
our
that you're
own-
together,
yeah.
Right, we're there.
It gives you that little
we-
extra.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
encourage each other, and by
Separately.
encourage each other, it means I tell her what she needs to fix. She
nice.
looks at me, she goes, "I have a trainer.
I do.
She said to do it this way." I was like,
That's
"All
right.
right, I
Good
guess
for you.
that she's the
Good
one.
for you.
She's the one we're paying to tell you what to do."
That's
So
right.
I don't get paid
So
to do
little
that.
by little over the years, what was the May I started in 2013. I ran my first 5K, and then it wasn't until June of 2015. So it's another 2 years later.
right.
It took me to work up to my first half marathon.
Oh my goodness!
And that was a
Yeah, you're
train wreck.
cruising.
Understand? That was a train wreck.
Why? What do you mean by a train
I
wreck?
wasn't.
Did you finish?
Yeah, I finished,
That
but I
doesn't sound
wasn't
like a train
ready. I wasn't. I really was. I didn't get to work up. I worked up to like maybe 8 or 9 miles. No, I think I got up to 12 miles, but it was a slow slog, and I think I pushed too hard through this half marathon. It was done in Pennypack Park near my old neighborhood in Philadelphia, and it was hot. It was June, and they have something in Pennsylvania that we don't have here in New Jersey. They have hills. They're evil. They're evil.
Those are backbreakers. They do kill.
I mean, our daughter-in-law Quinn and Steve, they run in them all the time. Our son-in-law, our daughter, who lives in Rochester, New York, they have a bunch of those hills, and all 4 of them do run at some shape, size, or form.
Right.
But I'm flat city.
Yeah, we're Jersey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ours is
True.
And that
nice
between that
slope.
and the heat index of 105,
Yeah, I guess,
I
wow, you really
was-
think about it.
it took me days.
Half marathon.
It took me
June.
days. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, because now it had been 2 years, I'm thinking long-term ultimate goal would be to do a marathon. And when I finished that, I mean, I looked like an old man going to breakfast. It was really bad. And Wanda says to me, she said, don't even think about doing a marathon.
Oh wow!
I didn't even voice it yet.
I
She
didn't
just
say
cut me-
anything.
Just cut me off with the legs. She thought I was going to die doing
Oh,
that
my
thing.
gosh.
And when I finished, Stephen happened to be there. Our son, he's happened to be there. He says, so do you think, because I know he's like always putting the dig in.
Uh-huh.
He said, so do you think you could have run any further? He says, I told him, I said, yeah, I could have run maybe a 1/10 of a mile.
If the finish line was like 2 steps back, maybe.
That's it. And now to this day, all of my runs that I always add a 1/10 of a mile.
Okay.
You know, if you
Like
ever look
during
at
the race?
no, if you ever look at Strava on my workouts,
when you drop
my
it.
Strava and that kind of thing. Whenever you look at
It's always
that,
a 0.1 after.
it'll always be a 0.1.
Huh.
Or when I do it,
Really?
yeah.
Is that just a? So that's your mental.
It's a mental
that's your
thing to
mental
remind
game.
me that I'm trying to push myself just
Right.
a little bit further.
have
You know,
a
that
little
one
bit
extra
more to
push
go.
up, that one extra, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I try to do, just a little bit more.
Okay. So that's June of 2015.
Yep.
Your half marathon.
And then I started backing off, and then I just kind of cruised in. When did I have my
The next question: when did Wanda let you start training for the
Well,
marathon?
2016. So the next year,
Okay.
November, I trained, and I was doing little. I was just adding little by little. I trained for this, and I had a really good experience at the C&D in Delaware half marathon. I literally had a smile on my face almost the entire time. Wanda surprised me. She got up at like dark 30, 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that, to go with me, and she drove me there. And I figured she'd go back to the car, and I'd see her at the
Right,
finish
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I saw her a couple times during the race. I
she
had a
could
big
pop
smile.
out.
One of my favorite running pictures is when I saw her, and she'd like, wow, I can't believe that she's here.
Aw,
She was at the
that is
marina. It was like
sweet.
around the turnaround
That's
point.
cool.
And I just had a smile on my face, and I finished. It was a little hot, but I finished it. And then I got sneaky. That was November, and I'd been working on it, and I think my PR personal record for distance was like 15 at the time. And little by little, like every other week, I would do a long run, and I still do that. Every other week is a long run, and I added a mile every other week.
Wow.
And I ran 18 miles, came home one Saturday, and had a smile on my face. And I just asked her, I said, so you think I could do a marathon now? She said, sure.
Oh wow.
And it's like shocked me.
yeah.
And so that next January, the next month, I got the 18-week program that Stephen helped me find.
Okay.
And it was 4 runs a week, of varying of like 3 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, and then like 7 miles on a Saturday.
Okay.
And so I'm talking about adjusting your schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4.
You gotta make that happen.
Right. And so you're talking about grandson's birthday in January, grandson's birthday in New York
You gotta
in
work around
in
all
March.
that.
And then, so I had to work around all this travel. I think we went to Vermont. I ran in Vermont when we were up there on vacation
You
in
want
February.
hills.
So you're
There's
you're
hills
talking
up
about
there.
all these moving parts, and little by little, I actually, just followed the program, and it worked out. And it was hard. It was super, super hard. But I hope to do it again. But I finished it. I did the Delaware Marathon.
You were on your way there this time around, right? Just recently.
Yeah.
And then,
I recovered from the plantar fasciitis in the 1 foot, and then I had already decided I was trying to target the Philadelphia Marathon, which is November.
okay.
So back up the 18 weeks, started training in I forget, June or July, whenever it was. And I had it targeted, and along about 6-7 weeks, I felt a little bit in the other foot. Sitting, I was this deep in that Egyptian river called D Nile. and it's it got, I didn't get it, let it get as bad like softball. I tore it.
Yeah.
I tore the other one 2 years ago. Yeah. But I didn't let it get that bad. But I really thought, because I registered for the half marathon in Philadelphia, the Rock and Roll, sometime in August when it wasn't really bad, and that was like the perfect week, because during the 18-week program, in the middle somewhere on that particular
half?
week, is that you're supposed to sign up, not just run a half, but also it encourages you to sign up for a half marathon. And here's the Rock and Roll half marathon right on the perfect week of my training program. It was like, hallelujah.
Do you think they plan that? Like, is like this 18-week thing like a common thing among like distance runners?
To build towards a marathon. Yeah,
Right.
It's 18, 20, depending
somewhere
on
in
what
that
you want to
ballpark.
do. And so, but I realized as I got closer to September, it wasn't happening. And then when I ran the race, I realized, or leading up to the race, I realized that was going to be my last race, my last run. So I haven't run since last Sunday, but I'm biking now.
That's you're very active. Like, I'd imagine if you go a week or two without moving, like you get real jittery and like you seem like a guy who needs.
Well, you're definitely like high energy person.
Yeah.
You know.
So you need your fix. You need.
That's why they have me playing the drums, right?
You need
And
right.
I sit
like
there
start banging on the kick drum and everything.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of which, like and I'll probably pull these and share them on our social media when we tag. But you had a giant smile in that race. Like they like got some candidates
Philadelphia
that run.
that
one
was
recent. It's a big old smile.
Well, that was just because I realized it was going to be my last run. I told my kids, I said, and Wanda, I said, I may be running a 14-minute mile because my last run the week before that I did 12 miles, and I ran like 5 minutes and walked for 45 seconds, and I thought I was going to be doing that the whole way. I was going to be walking. Running and walking and running, and I said, my goal is, I invested all this money, all this time. I wanted to have a good time. So, I mean, I saw a camera and I would smile or I'd do something silly, but I try to do that anyway.
Yeah.
We're running along, and you got 11,000 runners, whatever, and they space you out, that kind of thing. And I'm running with the old ladies. At least I didn't get passed by a woman pushing one of those strollers with the kids. I got passed in a 10K that way one time.
I have a theory on that. I think the stroller makes it easier.
Oh.
Can you imagine leaning on that stroller?
They're still
taking
pushing
some of the
weight.
You're still pushing it, but if it's got the big old wheels and they're hiding little motors in there, I know they are.
Stop.
You just take some of the weight off of that, so it'll be fine. Yeah. I ran with someone once in a race, and we were also competing against a pregnant woman.
Yeah, I was in that race.
Really?
And I said,
how'd you do?
Well, no.
I wasn't
I'm
gonna
going to
call
tell
you
you this story. I'm going to tell it my way.
This.
So I didn't train at all, but I had ran a 5K before, like 5 year previous. So
Yeah,
so I think to myself, and I'm kind of in shape, so
Totally
I'm like,
ready.
You are.
I can
You
run
always
a
work
5K.
out.
Like this is not going to be a big deal. And as we're lining up, Sam's like, just don't let the pregnant woman beat you. No problem, babe. Got it. So I started
Did you say
to run
how
the
pregnant
5K.
is she?
She was pregnant enough that
she
it
was
was
pregnant.
very
was showing?
notable that
Like
she was
someone
going
had
to
to follow
be having
her
a baby
because
soon.
halfway through, right, there might
her
be
water break.
another
Her water
runner.
might break.
We have to give the baby a number to finish.
So I start the 5K and I quickly realize I am in no shape to be running, and I'm very upset that I'm there at all. He says I look angry when I run, and I'm like, no, I am angry when I run. It's not like I'm for sure angry.
I believe it.
This is a real thing.
She doesn't have the joy down in her heart.
And
when
we
she
had
runs.
not gone this route before, and
Right, it was a
I ended
weird
up
path.
going the wrong way. So
You added distance?
Yeah.
Words cannot
that's
describe
the
how
worst.
mad I was. So he had to come get me. He's like, "You're going the wrong way," and I was so mad. And as we're running to the finish line, the pregnant woman goes right and hits right before us. I literally wanted
so
to
you
cry.
did it with her?
I wanted to
Well, I
go to
didn't
the
run
car
with
and
her,
cry.
but I finished.
Oh, then you went
ahead,
back.
and then I right, and then
And
the
then
finish
so
line
this-
and that
This
that
5K
turn.
happens once a week this summer, and that would
That was
be
the Vineland
our
Grand Prix
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they did. So
That's cool.
that would be our pattern. He would finish and then wait 10 minutes to see me coming around.
It wasn't quite that
And then you go
he would
pace her for the last-
He
Yep.
would do the
And then
last
push
half
her
a
to
mile
the
with
end.
me.
Yeah.
Encourage her.
Yeah, he'd
and
be like,
get
"You
going.
can't stop." Yes, I can. No, you can't. All right.
Yeah, I've paced my son in races. So,
Yeah.
but he's leaving. He wants to leave me.
Right.
He calls it smell the barn.
I
Come
wanted
back,
to
I'm trying
leave
to
him
help you.
too, but I couldn't breathe, so there's nothing I
Just
could
go
do.
along. So I wasn't going to sell you out. I was just going to put a general story.
But I
out there.
did.
But
I
she
did
had trained.
hear
She had
that
trained.
the pregnant
Oh, yeah, it
woman
was-
didn't do the whole 5K. That
Yeah,
she
she
had
must
to
have
cut
gave-
off a corner or something.
And you added time. And you added
And
time.
I added time.
You mean you're saying she didn't run the whole thing?
You told me she cut out an area.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I don't remember saying that.
Maybe you just said that
Tune
to
in
make me
next
feel
week.
better.
Said that while
Either
you
way,
were...
I added more time, and I was mad. I didn't think I was going to run again. I was so mad, but
Right.
I did go back the next week.
Yeah, every week is the same thing. Just, I'm done. I'm not doing
Not
this
doing
again.
it.
and
Why
then
are we doing this?
get up
This is
and get
stupid.
going.
Yeah.
But and I think part of that too is like we talk about discipline and the mental element to it, where Joyce is starting to obtain that element because growing up in sports, you
Yeah.
just kind of you understand you have to deal with the bad to receive any good, and so you learn how to deal with the yucky stuff and the difficult stuff and all that, and then ultimately there's going to be a prize at the end of that. So mentally you can kind of put yourself in a whole nother area, and she's just learning.
Well, I
She's in-
didn't grow up playing sports,
Right.
and I'm competitive, but not athletically
Right,
at all.
right.
So I don't really care if everyone I mean, I don't want to be last, and I don't want someone 9 months pregnant to beat me. But other than that, I
Might
don't
have been
really
7,
care.
who knows? Right,
But it helps to have that competitive spirit.
It does help,
To,
I just
to
don't.
push you.
right.
You're competing against yourself.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, well, that I would want to do. Break my time from the last.
She
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
She did
PRs
have
are-
that. The
PRs
nice
are
thing
big.
about having
Yeah.
that week to week to week to week was you're able to say, okay, I could pace myself out. And I could see where I was this week, and you get to see. I had talked to you a little bit about it. Like there were people I was watching ahead of me. Like I knew going into the race, they beat me by 30 seconds last time. So if I keep pace with them, I will then drop my time by 30 seconds. And so I kind of did that. Then I got into a race, not quite a few weeks back, about a month ago, and it dawned on me, I don't know anyone who's running on this thing. Like, I'm not gonna be able to
You're
pace
on your
myself by
own.
someone.
You
I'm
have
all
to
by
figure it
myself.
out, yeah.
So I just did that. I just played leapfrog, and I just the next person just kept going right along that. And mentally, it puts me in a completely different state. So that's why it's fun to run these races to have so many people going out there.
It really does keep you on on point.
Yeah, and I got my PR, my time PR at that one at 24:50, and I have an ultimate goal to see a 23 as the first number in a 5K. So
I've got one race. Of course, I started older, but I got one
you
race
started.
that was with a 24 in front of it. And it was the Bone Run that's coming up, by the way, in Pittsgrove, around
Parvins, right?
around Parvins.
Isn't that-
It's a
Parvins is a beautiful
fun
run.
race.
Yeah.
It's mostly trail going around, and I got my one.
That was that, huh?
Yeah, I thought it would be really cool, and to run a sub 8-minute mile ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
as a 50-year-old, and then I don't know, so months later I looked over and I think that the actual pace was 8:01 for the whole race,
That's-
and the 2 miles was actually 2 of the miles were sub 8. So I don't care if it was 7:59:59.
Hey, it was under.
It's
it was under that 8 mark.
that mental thing.
It's that thing you get
So
that.
I got it checked out off the list. I'm good.
Moving on from
Yeah.
there. Now you're wearing a very unique shirt, one that I do not own, and on the front of it says 1,000 Miles
Right.
Run Club. That's insane. So
2017,
We have-
the year of my marathon.
Okay.
Because of the training, and the fact that I kept pushing myself further, and I kept doing that long run. I didn't just back it off and run, 5 miles on the weekends. Every other run, I kept doing longer runs. That I got to. It was probably 1,020 for the
Oh
year.
my goodness. So how do you earn that shirt?
Oh, I bought it.
I know, but
Well,
How'd
obviously
I
you have
earn
to
it?
run 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's got to, is there like a
There's
quiz
running,
or something?
running
Nobody's-
clubs. No,
this
running
is,
clubs. This is
This is the honesty policy.
absolutely.
Gotcha.
Yeah, one of the nice things is the
I might
running community.
might be showing up soon with a shirt very
I
similar.
will say the running community is
It's
a
awesome.
breed of people that is very encouraging. Like people who you've never seen before will be standing at the finish line cheering you on, like, come on, finish. And they don't know
Yeah,
me. What do
and
they care what my time
that-
is? But they're very
I
encouraging.
like that point. Like, they're not just saying, because anyone would be like, yeah, come on, but they're like, go push hard.
Yeah.
Like, they're like
Yep.
actually being very
They're
intentional
very
about.
sincere.
Yeah, they're very sincere about it, and yeah, it is lots of fun running around.
It helps you go on, and I see that even more so on when I crew for ultra marathons, because you'll have 20 people in an aid station, because around a 50 miler they might have 4 aid stations, and a 100 miler they might have 6 aid stations, and they've got tents and stuff like that, and they've probably got 20 people manning this with EMTs and that kind of thing. And regardless of who the runner is to coming in it, what do you need? Okay, you got this, you need some water, you need
Right.
it doesn't matter who the runner is. It's just encouraging.
Want to help
it's,
them out.
it's really
get
cool.
them going.
Yeah.
That's like, how many runners are running these things?
Ultras, they're in the hundreds.
Yeah.
I would say.
And that's a national draw, I'm guessing, because that's
Yeah.
not like a you can't plop it down and expect just the locals to come out to it.
Yeah,
because-
there's Grindstone, which is I think Maryland or Virginia, down there. You run along the ridge line of the. You ever follow the? You look down the mountains and you watch the mountains go, and that's what they do. They pretty much follow the ridge line
Oh,
of
really?
of the mountain, and they. I'm sorry, I forgot the question. I blew it out of my mind.
we were talking about like the numbers and like
Oh yeah,
the
it's,
draw,
it's,
the
it's
people
like
it
200 or
draws in.
300
People
runners
travel to
typically.
get to them.
They have
Yeah.
to. Some of them have lotteries. You've heard of the Boston. You have to
Yeah, yep.
but like Hard Rock up in Colorado, less than 200 people ish, and you have to apply. And before you can even apply, you've had to run 100 miles before somewhere on a race that they will
okay.
condone,
I got you.
because they don't want any Joe Schmo going in there and not having
Right.
a risk to
They don't want anyone getting injured.
yeah
A
or
lot of,
not
a
fin-
lot
they
of
want them all
marathons
to finish.
have that
Yeah.
kind of thing
Yeah.
too. Like the race, you got to have meet certain qualifications to
Right.
get in and everything.
Boston
like that.
Boston Marathon. I think it's the granddaddy of all marathons. They set certain paces that like your age, you might have to run a 3 hour and 10-minute marathon somewhere in the country.
Right. Just to
That
get-
is a BQ. They call it Boston qualifier, because not all marathons will go back to that. But there's plenty out there. But you have to qualify before you can even apply to those races.
And it makes sense too. I mean, you're getting that many people that want to get in there. You want to, have
Absolutely.
what's going on. It's same kind of, any other tournament I go to. I like to know that I'm going up against competition that's prepared and ready to go.
Yep.
Instead of just anyone walking in on that. So I mean, So I want to talk so this is a newer journey than I thought. You said only 6 years ago you just kind of started this thing.
2013.
And now, you kayak, you're biking, you're excessively active.
I wouldn't say excessively, but I've always
Compared
wanted
to the average person, you
I try to stay
activity
active.
is your thing. Yeah, that's pretty. And you have an office job too, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, I do. I do. So I'm
He loves
always,
his job,
I'm
really. He
always-
loves
I have a stand-up desk.
Okay.
And
Up,
so
down,
up, down,
all day long.
absolutely. It would be up more often if it wasn't for the PF, but but I'm always moving around and that kind of thing.
That's what I think attributes to, because you're such an active person. You are forced to be locked in most of the day. So when you get home, you're literally
I got lots of energy.
letting the dog out
Yeah.
and then just run around. The
Wanda
house
calls
and
me
go
her
through-
ever-ready bunny.
That's cute.
Now she joins you on a lot of these adventures too. I mean, I've seen her out kayaking and stuff like that.
Well, we got into kayaking together.
Mm-hmm.
Our neighbor across the street, he got us hooked. Well, I went kayaking with him once,
Mm-hmm.
and then he loaned us his kayaks, and we went kayaking. And the third time, we bought them.
You're like, yeah, we're in.
We're all in, and we go,
our thing.
half a dozen times, maybe 8-10 times during the summer, and that kind of thing. But
It's a good workout.
it is.
It's a
It
great
can be,
workout.
or you can
Yeah,
just
yeah,
chill.
yeah, that's true.
The one we took this weekend
true.
was pretty chill. It was only like 2.5 miles an hour. We were out there. Matter of fact, we stopped for a while, and she just put her feet up, and so I did the same thing and just.
Yep, that's how I kayak.
That
And
was,
it was-
Joyce and I went once, and I'm ready. Like, let's go across the lake. Let's go around here.
I'm like,
we get
this
out to the
isn't
middle.
a
and she's just
competition.
kicking back, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't
Yeah.
kayaking.
Yeah, but she knows her limits,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important to know. Because we planned a kayak trip from Willow Grove Lake down to Sherman Avenue.
Okay.
We wound up only going as far as Almond Road because you're going under and through a bunch of
like all the
trees and that kind of
trees
thing.
and stuff.
But we've got another kayak trip planned Saturday that's going to go from Almond Road to Sherman, and that's supposed to be open.
Okay.
So she's actually going on this one. You are, right?
She
the
is
plan.
now. Don't make him
No,
out to
she
be
said she
alive.
was, and you need, yeah, she
She'll
committed.
be there.
So I want to talk a little bit about like one like meal prep leading up to some of these big races because I know you have to start to fuel your body
Races. Okay.
to the runs.
Okay,
Maybe
and,
not
and
the-
long runs are pretty much the same thing because I generally try to practice the way I play.
right. Yep.
Makes sense.
So I usually have either an egg with some bacon in it, a little bit of bread. Sometimes I just go out with just a Kind Bar.
Okay.
I'll start with that, and I need to fuel that like 45 minutes to an hour before the race. Water. I drink.
We get hydrated all week leading up to it, right?
I try to stay
yeah,
hydrated
yeah.
rather than try to
I know. You
force
play
it.
catch up.
And then I've always been I drink a little bit as I go. Whatever run, I've always got a bottle. Even a 3-mile run,
Okay.
I take a bottle because I'm always sipping just a little bit. I run 2 or 3 minutes and take a sip,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to keep my hydration pretty level. When I ran the half marathon on last Sunday, I had my hand bottle, and just kept doing the same thing.
You
Kept
just hold it the whole time?
yeah. It's
It's
got a
got a
strap.
strap,
So
right.
it can actually, and you
Okay.
cinch it, so you're really just it's holding
It's
onto
there,
you.
but
I
yeah,
gotcha.
you're not
Yeah, and you
carrying
can
it.
still be kind of relaxed and that kind of thing. And I will, I think I refilled it twice during the race.
Wow,
just,
you're really drinking while you're running.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
ran for over 2.5 hours.
Well, that's true. I guess your runs are slightly different from mine.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's
I've
not that
run.
mile out and back that we like.
Yeah,
to
I
pull
ran.
off.
Yeah.
I've run 4 half marathons. The first one. That was that train wreck. It was just over 2.5 hours, and the other ones were closer to 2 hours. I think 2 hours and 6 minutes was my fastest. But this one goes to the PF, wound up being slower than the others.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you that it was going to be fun, and I had
took
a
it, right,
had a
you just-
ball with it.
You had a different mentality going.
I
into it,
did,
Yeah.
but then I also fuel with I like the Stinger waffles.
Stinger.
Yeah, what are they?
waffles?
We don't know.
Look them up on Amazon.
Okay.
They're
Write it
coming.
I'm writing it
Stinger
down.
Stinger waffles. They're honey. They have honey and they're waffles,
I get it.
and they've got a little bit of protein and
Okay.
and it just I eat and
Oh,
run
that's
with that
you. So you not only are you
I
drinking
put-
while you're running, you're also
on my longer runs.
Okay,
on, my,
on the big ones,
longer
on the
than
big ones.
an hour. Anything more than an hour, I will.
Is this a common thing? Like, is this what?
That's what
a lot
I
of
do.
people-
What works
you
for
do?
me.
Which
I
is
don't
fine.
because
and
I don't eat a lot before I get started.
like days before you carb loading.
No,
like what's
no carb loading. I keep my
Keep your
keep my
diet
level.
pretty
Keep my
much
diet.
the
Everything,
same as
you're
what
not
it
Yes.
normally would be.
modifying
There's no
anything
there's
like
no
that.
carb loading or anything like that.
Now, part of
And-
that is you have a healthy diet, anyways. Like you're already kind of running
Yeah.
that. You're not
Right.
having to cut out things leading up to it.
Exactly.
You're already you're. What I'm hearing is you're maintaining. You're not kind of.
Yes.
You don't have to.
Keep-
so you
keep a
don't
nice
have to
level.
Prep. You're already prepped. And
I
ready.
try.
That's-
The other thing I do for long runs is I have gels, GU,
Okay.
GU goos. They're basically one every half an hour.
It's like electrolytes. Is that what it is?
Amino acids, protein.
Okay.
Just it's nutrition.
Yeah.
It's,
Like a little
30
packet.
and you squeeze. And well, I do a little
Slurp
bit,
it
a
up.
little, yeah,
Right.
and then so I'll do that every half an hour. Also, I mean, I'll do either or. Either I do one.
Sounds like he's running with a lunch pail, doesn't it?
I know. I could just see him carrying this big cooler behind him. Like, does anybody have a Halo cup back there?
I
Get
have-
some ice cream.
I have it's called a hydration vest, and it has 2 bottles up here, 2 water bottles. They're soft bottles. Thanks to my son, he gave me. They used to be hard, but they're soft. They also have pouches here and here, and I will put the goo gels in here and here, And down here, those medicine boxes things,
Yeah,
flip.
Yeah,
that where you
okay.
keep track of your pills.
I use Endurolites, and that is for the electrolytes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I will take one of those about every half an hour, especially if it's hot. Mm-hmm. And my son uses Tailwind in his drink, so he doesn't need any
He's
of that.
got it in there. He's already got it there.
It's called
Right.
Tailwind. And
Is that electrolytes or what is that? Okay.
it's
all
nutrition.
Of it. It's all of it. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
one,
salt tablets and stuff like that? Is that
better than salt
better
tablets.
than salt
yeah.
tablets?
Interesting. We're gonna have to check these out. I love checking out new food products
we're
and what they do.
The Tailwind is one-stop shop.
You
You've
think,
got
you
the
think I'm silly with this? I'll be popping out a food vest next time. There.
and
Some
yeah.
bacon in one.
So I do have the vest, and
fat
then it's
moms.
got a pack. So if I decide to take off a shirt or whatever, I can throw it in here.
Mm-hmm.
A couple times if I go on a 2-hour run, I'll take a spare bottle and I'll one
Throw it
of
in
those
the
soft
backpack.
bottles and throw it back there.
Yeah, so if you're listening to a podcast, basically you just think of like a vest and it's got all these pouches all over
yeah.
the place, but I'm not like a giant hiking vest,
No,
but
it's not.
pretty
It's,
slim
it's
and
very
trim.
very slim and trim. Yeah.
Does it have the straws too built into it? Are we talking about this?
No,
or this is just
I did go on a bike ride. I have a Camelback, and it will hold a Camelback in it.
Yeah,
and
those have-
it'll work.
a little straw sticking out here.
Little straw, you can just lean over.
kick your shoulder up.
I do
and
that when we ski.
get a little
We ski
straw.
we ski in the wintertime. We try to go as many times as we can. Usually 4 or 5, maybe 6, 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Camelback on the back, so I'm constantly there's that little sip.
Right.
There's that little sip. Rather than just pound the water.
Totally dehydrated.
Yeah.
When
I
you're
can
done.
never, even in the little runs, they hand the cup out to you, and I'm like, what? If I just
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
I can't even do that. So I just lock in. I go unless it's really hot, then I'll take my hat off and throw the water in the hat and use it as a cool off.
Oh, that's often awesome for a hot run.
That's
Just
mostly
like a
where I'm
towel.
at.
Put a towel on top and put a bunch of water on there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they enjoy that stuff.
By the time you what is it? By the time you think you're thirsty,
You're already
too late.
dehydrated.
it's too late.
too late.
It's going to take you longer than
Yeah.
the race it is to rehydrate.
Yeah.
So I got one more question related to your recent event. You finished your half marathon and you did push-ups.
Okay.
Where's the story behind that?
Well, that's an homage to the other 3 days a week because I usually run 3 days a week and I work out in my basement 3 days a week.
Okay.
So because I'm doing sit-ups, push-ups, do a little bit of weights, a little ring work, but a whole lot of stretches and that kind of thing. And I'm running along and along about mile 8 or 9. I'm like doing all this running. Said, and I just wanted to show that I got something left in the tank.
I love it.
No, that's great.
So I dropped and I did what I called 13.1 push-ups for the
push-up,
13.1
right.
miles, but it was 14. But it sounds better as 13.
We stopped at 13.1.
Yeah.
We didn't count the last
Do
one.
you
You don't
have
to
like
count
a gym in your basement, or are you?
No, it's
working
just
out
a
in
living
open
room
space?
area
Okay.
and my
Like an
workout
open space to
Yeah,
kinda
our
get things done.
basement is like crazy
Open.
wide open.
That's beautiful. You have a nice little rancher out there, so I know exactly.
Yeah, we got a little living room area set up.
Mm-hmm.
Wanda's got her wrapping station, and I have my workshop over there.
She's a rap
Nice.
artist.
Rap artist at Christmas time.
This is what we need to get Wanda out now. Just here to drop some beats. All right, you have a final question for Tuck
Yeah,
as we
I'm
wrap
sure
up.
you know this by now that we like to end with a question that has nothing to do about what we're talking about whatsoever.
excited about
just
this.
to kind of throw you off.
She's going to the back of the
We
book
wanted
now.
to have a fun one for you because
Okay.
we knew you could handle it. All right, you ready, Tuck?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you were wrongfully put in an insane asylum,
Wrongfully, not
Wrongfully. Okay.
wrongfully, we're assuming,
Okay.
how would you convince them that you're actually sane and not just pretending to be?
How would I? And pretending to be?
No, you're not pretending to be. You're trying to prove that you're sane.
I would probably be the.
I am totally normal. Let
Totally
me out the
normal.
door.
I would be the just the perfect patient, and I would be reading books, and I'd be having conversations. I'd be throwing out, those $40 words. Just be all prim and proper, and show up on time. Take my meds.
Take my meds.
I'll take those meds, please.
I mean, while I'm here, it's all included in the price, right?
This is great. Bedtime at 8. Everyone's feeding
He's
me.
not ripping off the mattress tags or anything inappropriate.
And eating them.
The model citizen.
Model student.
With big
Model
words. Give me one of those
patient.
$40 words. You're stuck. You're in. He's going to be stuck in.
That's it. Straight
Chrysanthemum.
jacket for life.
How's
There
that?
you go. That's a good one.
You're
We'll
just
take
walking around. I know big words. Just don't ask me.
I have to think them up.
I don't belong here.
Loquacious.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
that's a good one.
Loquacious. What's that mean?
Fancy. Well, he didn't say he knows what they meant. He just said he could spew them
Gotta
out.
throw them out. Right?
Yeah.
You just want that. That's right up my alley.
My kids will say you're being facetious. Little
That one-
grandkids.
That one.
Aw.
Oh, your grandkids.
Grandkids will
say
say,
that?
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
they'll drop
grandkids
that.
are too cute. You got 4 grandbabies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they so they're growing up in
9,
active
8,
families
5, and
too?
almost 5.
Oh, wow.
2 in New York and 2 in Pennsylvania.
That's great.
It's going by too fast.
Yeah,
You know the drill.
I
I
know.
mean, we don't
Sad.
have grandbabies.
But I'm saying, but you know how fast the
we're
kids grow.
watching.
It's like,
Yeah, we turn around and bam, my son's looking me straight in the eyes. I'm like, oh, it's too much. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
jumping
This
in.
was great.
This
It was
was
fun.
fun. This is good because I'm not. I don't know. In my head somewhere along the lines, I'm still debating if I'm going to put that on my bucket list. What's the farthest you have to run to train for this? Like
20 miles.
20 miles.
That's
is
the
the
list.
breaking point.
And you got to give a shout out to Irv, because
yeah, he did. He helped you out a couple times, right?
Well, especially that time.
Mm-hmm.
He's more of a wrestler and a weight
Right,
guy,
right.
but he does a little bit of ring for running like you guys do for the
Yeah.
cardio, that kind of thing. But I think the most he had ever run was like 5 or 6, 7 miles, something like that. So we ran from his house in Pittsburgh, or
Pittsburgh. If you ran from Pittsburgh, that's a whole nother level.
what is it out there?
I thought they were Upper Deerfield.
Upper Deerfield.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was going to say Pittsgrove. But yeah, Hopewell. I think he's
Okay.
out there.
Yeah,
Hopewell.
that's it.
So Wanda there, God bless her. Again, she drove me that morning out to his house at 7:00 in the morning on a Saturday, and then came back. So we ran 8 miles to Woodruff Church on 56. He had hidden a bike there.
That's great.
And the thing was, he had never run. I don't think he'd ever run 8 miles.
Oh my.
And so then he ran that 8 miles, and then he got on the bike, and it was rainy. It was like 40 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
And he's riding a bike next to a runner who's running distance. So he's
like
pedaling very slowly, and he's freezing.
Oh my gosh.
And he made the next 12 miles with me, and the entire last 3 miles he was saving it. Last 3 miles he was every like half mile he would throw a scripture out at me just to encourage me,
that's great.
because I was flagging. I really
right.
was. I really have a lot. I really owe him a lot of debt.
That's
there.
great.
Yeah,
And
he
we
was
haven't
awesome.
heard from Merv since. So
That's what happened to good old
that
Irv.
was his swan song. Well, that's good. Well, I'm excited. I learned a lot of things. We got a lot of things for the show notes. Definitely, Tuck. You are definitely an inspiration when it comes to that, because to think like you've only been doing this for 6 years and you're pounding on these miles like that. Like that's just unbelievable. I have an app on my phone that tells me every 26 miles. You know what I mean? It kind of
Oh,
pops. It says you completed another 26
Another
mile block. block and
another
stuff.
marathon block, right?
Yeah, it makes me wish I would have like used the same app from the get-go, so I got to see where I was in the accumulation.
And I'm
But
fortunate enough I have.
You've been
I continued on with Map My Run,
gotcha.
but it now is connected to Strava
Get
and
it all-
to
yeah.
Garmin, because I use my watch Garmin to record them all. Used to have to hit the start and stop on the phone,
Yeah.
but now it's
Now you
down
get it
here.
all locked in.
And they just share data automatically. I only have to save on my watch, and it goes to all three.
Perfect. Well, I learned through this program that you don't have to actually run 1,000 miles to get a 1,000-mile shirt.
That's true.
But he did.
But he did. All right, I think that's it. No more.
it.
Cool.
Nothing going out.
All right.
That's it. We thank Tuck, and this will be airing soon. I don't know how to
Hopefully
close
that
it.
gets
Yeah,
Rock
we'll
on.
cut that out.
This was fun.